Welcome to the Infernal Brotherhood of the Scruffy Looking Nerf Herders. My name is I had to look up to say my name is Adam because apparently I don't remember my own name. Today's November 25th, and it is Star Wars news discussion. That's right, it is HoloNet news. All right, so today we're going to be talking about Star Wars producer calling out the biggest problem with Ahsoka, one that we have all echoed on this channel, and many of you out there have echoed as well. We're going to talk about Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy is officially dead. Surprise, as if we hadn't already known that. And then Disney spent more on Andor than any of its Star Wars movies. Yeah, well, it worked. It actually worked. All right, so plus we're going to take a look at the Star Wars news feed. So let's dive in, shall we? All right, first up, we've got Star Wars producer calls out the biggest problem with Ahsoka. Now, Ahsoka was generally well received by Star Wars fans for many reasons, including the fact that it brought back many of the favorite Rebels characters into live action. However, many of those fans were perplexed by the decision to make the Mandalorian, Sabine Wren, a Jedi, something the earlier show never did. Recently, Rebels writer and executive producer Henry Gilroy expressed his own confusion with this live-action character development, who felt this story was a weak retread, and that making a mighty Mandalorian into a Jedi warrior was overkill. Yeah, no kidding. We were all there with you, dude. Star Wars is retreading water, as if that's not what Star Wars always does, but in this case it seemed superfluous. He made these statements on Pod of Rebellion, a rewatch podcast where the hosts revisit episodes of Star Wars Rebels. On that podcast, Gilroy confirmed that the show's writers originally considered making Sabine into a Jedi, but they avoided doing so because, quote, "We really felt not only did it step on Ezra's story, but it was a retread. Like, we already did this." Yeah, and you did. So Gilroy is correct on that point. While Rebels had an ensemble cast, the series as a whole primarily focused on young Ezra Bridger, a talented Force user that Kanan Jarrus, who survived Order 66, trains to become a Jedi. Sabine is around Ezra's age, so having her trained to be a Jedi really would have stepped on Ezra's story. As a veteran writer, Gilroy understands why this would have been bad storytelling. Like, why give two members of your small ensemble cast the same basic story arc? That's a good question, Filoni. Why did you do that? Because that's exactly what you did in Ahsoka. And now we have both Ezra and Sabine and Ahsoka all in the same show, all as Jedi, in an era where there weren't supposed to be Jedi. Fucking idiots. So, joining the dark saber side. The closest Sabine came to being a Jedi in Star Wars Rebels is that after some Force witch drama, it's a long story, she became the owner of the Darksaber, which Kanan taught her how to use. However, at no point in that storyline did she ever show any Force sensitivity. Gilroy commented on this while also casting some serious shade on how Ahsoka eventually portrayed Sabine's abilities after her season-long struggle to use the Force. Quote, "What I love about the story with the Darksaber is that you don't have to be a Jedi to have Jedi ideals," Gilroy said. "I think that's what's really the most important thing. Rather than Force pushing Ezra 100 feet when she's never used the Force before." This reference, of course, to Ahsoka's climactic battle where she uses the Force to help Ezra stow away aboard Thrawn's ship, where he is sure to vex the Grand Admiral as he makes his way back to terrorize our favorite galaxy far, far away. What's crazy about that is Ezra is a Force user. Why couldn't he have just Force jumped the distance? Why did he need Sabine Wren, who doesn't use the Force or clearly has never effectively used the Force until that very moment, being able to do something that a Jedi like Ezra couldn't do? It's absurd. And it's one of the many reasons why that show bothers the shit out of me. It should be a home run as a show. And instead, Filoni is just masturbating on camera. Like, that's all he's doing. He's jerking off on how his stuff is supposedly better than George's or on par with George's. And look, I really thought he was going to be the heir apparent to George's view of the Force and Star Wars. And what ended up being is he pretty much just ignored the stuff that he didn't like about George's universe and just started creating his own stuff, which was, surprise, surprise, wildly derivative of everything that he said he didn't like. Let's see. A waste of great characters. Personally, I really enjoyed Ahsoka, and it warmed my cold as Hoth heart to see Ezra and Sabine reunited on screen in glorious live action. Furthermore, actors Emma Esfandi and Natasha Liu Bordizzo deserve full credit for bringing these characters to life and giving them enough killer chemistry to fuel a few thousand fanfics. But I can't help but feel that Henry Gilroy is right, and the attempt to make Sabine into a Jedi lessens both her and Ezra as characters. It lessens Ezra's for the same reason Gilroy mentioned before. Sabine now has the same basic backstory, a young person trained by an experienced Jedi who becomes a Force-powered secret weapon for the Rebels. Furthermore, it lessens Sabine because she went from being a really cool Mandalorian warrior with her own unique backstory and fighting style into being just another Jedi. In this way, one of the coolest characters from Rebels has become someone who might as well be one of the zillion generic Jedi in the background during the Battle of Geonosis. Ahsoka's second season is around the corner, and only time will tell if the writers flesh out Sabine's story more and keep her from being just a femme-swapped version of Ezra. Based on Season 1, though, Rebels writer and producer Henry Gilroy was right to call out this plot development as one that lessens both Ezra and Sabine as characters. If the current writers keep diluting fan-favorite characters with lazy writing like this, they may find that audiences have become a bit like Ezra himself, in self-exile from Star Wars altogether, and unlikely to ever make their way back. This is really funny because it's making this statement as if that hasn't already happened, thanks to another story that I'm going to be covering in today. But overarching, it's proof of the pudding that Disney does not understand Star Wars regardless of who is in control of it, because they're not George Lucas. The reason why Dave Filoni did such a great job with his animated series was because George Lucas was overlooking them. And as soon as he stopped, as soon as he sold it over to Disney, everything that's come out has been lacking and hollow. And the only things that really, really landed, like that unapologetically are stunning, was Rogue One and Andor. Basically the exact same creator and storylines. And that's it. When you take it into an adult direction, all of the children that grew up with Star Wars and are now adults really appreciate what they did. But that has less to do with Star Wars and Disney and has more to do with the actual creator of both of those properties. And then when you talk about the real Force-sensitive type stuff, really only George did it well. And yes, there are small moments that we can pick apart from different series that were produced solely by Disney when it comes to Jedi and the Force, but by and large, it's really only George who did it well, and everyone else is scrambling, trying their damnedest to retread old ground, retell old stories, and recreate what has already existed in a much less effective manner in the Disney era of Star Wars. It's just pathetic. You could just re-release the old stories like they have been doing under Legends nomenclature, and people will rediscover them or discover them for the first time and be blown away by how great they are. And yes, some of them are silly, some are ridiculous, but we still love them because they're Star Wars, because it's what we grew up with. It's the nostalgia that makes it great. And it's also some of the storytelling, like the original Thrawn in Timothy Zahn's stories, the Heir of the Empire stuff, was great. And yet now we have this sort of neutered version of Thrawn that is this master tactician in Ahsoka, and yet he gets foiled constantly by Ahsoka. Not quite the master tactician if one single Jedi can F up your entire schemes. But here we are. All right. Let me know what you guys think. Is it okay, in your opinion, for Sabine Wren to be a Mandalorian and a Jedi, completely neutering Ezra Bridger's story arc? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. And are you looking forward to the next season of Ahsoka? All right. Next up. Even this guy's face bugs me because he completely destroyed Star Wars single-handedly. Rian Johnson's Star Wars trilogy is officially dead. Hell yeah. Nearly a decade after it was first announced, Rian Johnson's long-in-development Star Wars trilogy had been permanently grounded. The director confirmed that his plans were effectively dead during a new interview with The Hollywood Reporter, in which he addressed his desire to still work with the galaxy far, far away after helming the massively divisive Star Wars The Last Jedi in 2017. It ends what's been a winding saga filled with delays and speculations as he turned his attention towards completing his Knives Out trilogy at Netflix. However, he wanted to emphasize that while he never got to create that intergalactic stories he wanted, he's still not ready to shut the door on the franchise for good. Well, guess what, Rian? We are. We want to shut the door on any possible involvement with you and Star Wars. Because while you may think your attempt at subverting expectations was successful, it was an entire flop of a film from the very opening scene to the very ending scene. You completely destroyed and stripped down what made Star Wars great and instead turned it into a Marvel joke. Ruining legacy characters, completely destroying narrative. I mean, it's a pathetic view of what Star Wars is and has ever been. Oh, it drives me nuts. Hey, Chris, how you doing? Sabine Wren died to you when she sliced in the stomach with a lightsaber in Ahsoka. Right. Right. You just reread Heir to the Empire due to this channel last year, and he was so much better in those novels than Disney live action. Yeah, I totally agree, man. All right, let's see. A part of my brain will always be in Star Wars, he said in the interview. It's so much a part of me in the way I think. Johnson has long been vocal about his deep passion for the franchise and desire to create something new within that universe, even if his lone film with a sense of humor that rubbed some fans the wrong way and a contentious approach to Luke Skywalker, Mark Hamill, wasn't exactly what audiences were looking for. Back in May, he said he'd be the happiest person if he ever got to direct another Star Wars movie, though he admitted that his desire to build a new franchise, namely Knives Out, ultimately kept that from happening. That still worked out quite well for him in the end, earning a lucrative deal at Netflix to create 2 new Benoit Blanc, Daniel Craig, mysteries that have been showered with critical acclaim. And I wish him all of the success in the world. I want him to be wildly successful in whatever it is he's doing. Just stay the fuck away from Star Wars when you're doing it, because you don't get it. And I get it. I love Star Wars too, but I don't think I could helm a successful Star Wars film either. So just because you love something and it's always in the back of your mind doesn't mean you should be actively involved in it directly. No, let it inspire you. Let it fuel your imagination. But that doesn't mean that you can do what George Lucas did. Clearly, because when you tried, you shit the bed. Johnson will always divide Star Wars fans, though his trilogy had the potential to bring something fresh into the franchise. How do you know that? How do you know that? It's never been written. It's never even been conceptualized. It's never even been talked about. So how do you know that he had potential to bring something fresh to the franchise? You only say that based on The Last Jedi. And what did he bring that was new? Well, he broke physics in space. He destroyed legacy characters, completely changing them. He invented, supposedly, which was a lot of derivative content from what existed already in EU, but completely destroyed it in its live-action take. He created ridiculous characters that didn't make any sense. He stripped away what should have been a really interesting character arc with John Boyega's character. I mean, There was so much nonsensical content in The Last Jedi, so much made zero sense, that only fans who liked it were fans who weren't fans before. They just liked the Marvel superhero stuff, and so they're like, oh, this is Marvel Star Wars. Awesome. Joke. Following characters never seen before in an entirely new setting within the same universe. For what it's worth, the director also maintained a positive relationship with Lucasfilm throughout the process, which could mean a return sometimes down the road. His plans were, however, in the chaotic shuffle with no shortage of other future products ordered after the advent of 2019's The Rise of Skywalker that are in various stages of fizzling out or coming to fruition, like Sean Levy's upcoming Star Wars Starfighter with Ryan Gosling. Next on the docket is Jon Favreau's The Mandalorian and Grogu, which again was really just The Mandalorian Season 4 that even Jon Favreau said was supposed to be Season 4 of Mandalorian, that he decided to make into a film instead. Coming to theaters on May 22nd, 2026, and featuring Pedro Pascal reprising his role as Din Djarin from the small screen. I am very much looking forward to that, just to see something in the theater that is Star Wars. That's the only reason I'm excited for it. I hope it reminds itself that Season 1 and 2 were the best, and it doesn't try to do something outside of that like Season 3. Because that ended up completely turning people away, including the Book of Boba Fett. Ryan, let's look at this here. What you hated most about The Last Jedi was that he made Mark Hamill, the nicest person in the world, upset and confused about how much he didn't understand the character of Luke Skywalker. Yeah. The guy who literally defined Luke Skywalker is now completely confused about the character. How is that a success? Ryan took every single interesting thread from Force Awakens and ran it through a paper shredder and then pooped on the pulp and then lit it on fire. And then, I was stunned. I watched it 3 times in the theater just to make sure that I was understanding that I hated it. Because I was like, everyone's saying they like it. I must be missing something. I have to see this again because I just don't understand it. And then, of course, the fact that I saw it 3 times tells investors that I loved it because I saw it 3 times. When really I saw it 3 times because I was like, what the fuck? All right, so what's next for Rian Johnson? Johnson isn't exactly waiting for work despite the death of his Star Wars trilogy. The 3rd film of his Knives Out series, Wake Up Dead Man, releases in theaters next week on November 26th and arrives on Netflix soon after on December 12th, complete with another star-studded ensemble around Craig and a glittering 95% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes. I still haven't seen those films. And the thing is I like detective stories. I got to be honest, I didn't see them because I'm so turned away from Rian Johnson after Last Jedi. And I like the actors that are in them. I like the premise. I have to watch them. And I think I will eventually. But I'm so burned by this fucking filmmaker that I just refuse to even acknowledge something that he's done. So, I don't know. I need to grow up and just say, look, it's not Star Wars. It can be good. Let's just watch it. Because I do want him to be successful. It's not like I want him to die or anything. I just want him to stay away from Star Wars. So I don't know. I'll check him out. Have you guys seen the Knives Out? And if so, did you enjoy them? Let me know in the comments. Although he's complete with the murder mystery trilogy for now, Johnson keeps on potentially making more stories with Blanc down the line if the demand is still there. For now, his next focus is a new paranoid thriller that may harken back to his high-concept sci-fi original projects like Looper. There's also the matter of Poker Face, which was canceled after Season 2 on Peacock and is now being shopped around with the intent of introducing a new Charlie Cale to take the lie-detecting thread from Natasha Lyonne, Peter Dinklage. Stay tuned to here at Collider for more on Johnson's future. All right. So, I've already spoken out ad nauseum about Rian Johnson, about how much I dislike his take on Star Wars and how they'll never let him do a trilogy. And now even he's admitting that it's dead in the water and it's not going to happen. So this is proof that good things can happen in the world. The reason Knives Out is successful is because Rian Johnson knows murder so well, such as when he murdered your love of Star Wars for a movie. Well said. Well, I do have to say, good luck on everything you're going to do, Rian Johnson. Stay away from Star Wars, and I hope you find even more success than you've already found with your Knives Out trilogy and with Looper. And I will check out Knives Out eventually. I promise I will. Let me know what you guys think. Do you want to see a Rian Johnson trilogy? Because look, he is a good filmmaker. He's just not a good writer or director. So maybe he's not a good... No, he's clearly a good filmmaker. I'm just shitting on him. Do you want to see it? And, look, if there was a sort of concept out there, would you want to hear what it is and have that be the basis for whether or not he put something together, rather than the fact that he directed one film and so he should, just because he did that, write a trilogy for Star Wars? Let me know in the comments below. Love to hear what you have to say. All right. Disney spent more on Andor than any of its Star Wars movies. And I'm glad that they did. All right, let's look at this. Disney has revealed today that it spent $60.5 million on Star Wars streaming series Andor in 2024, ahead of the debut of its second season in April of this year, giving the show a total cost of $705.5 million, which was within the budget, but still far higher than the spending of any of the movies in the sci-fi saga. Disney has been a mixed bag of results from its Star Wars shows and movies since it bought the creator of the series, Lucasfilm, for $4 billion in 2012. All the stars aligned for The Force Awakens, the first Disney's trilogy of sequels to the original films, which kicked off in 1977. The Force Awakens grossed $2.1 billion and earned an impressive audience score of 84% on review aggregate Rotten Tomatoes. However, its 2017 follow-up, The Last Jedi, was only ranked 41%, and although the audience score shot back up to 86% for The Rise of Skywalker, the final film in the trilogy, it only grossed $1.1 billion in the only $1.1 billion in the box office. Star Wars hasn't been seen on the silver screen since then, and instead the mouse has concentrated on streaming shows for its Disney Plus platform. But they too experienced a disturbance in the Force. The first in the series was 2019's Mandalorian, which followed the eponymous armor-clad bounty hunter tasked with protecting a pointy-eared green alien called Grogu. The cute critter took the world by storm, and the first season scored a whopping 93% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. A sequel is inevitable, and that maintained the original high standard with a 91% audience score. However, it crashed to just 51% for the third season in 2023, and the malaise didn't stop there. The following year, Disney released The Acolyte, which was famously attacked for its emphasis on diversity and ended up with the audience score of just 19. It wasn't attacked for its emphasis on diversity, you idiots. It was attacked because it was a shit-written show, a shit-acted show that had no goddamn logic with canon. That's why it tanked. That's why people hated it. That's why they didn't watch it. And it was wildly over budget. It's unbelievable the spin that people try to put on that shitty show. Like, oh no, it was just racist and bigoted people that didn't like it. Give me a fucking break. You can watch episode by episode and just look at the characters flip-flop but within the same episode in a lot of cases. But then between episodes, they flip-flop on their motivations, what they should do, what they want to do, what they say they're going to do. It's just fucking ridiculous. They're just trying to rewrite history here and ended up with an audience score of just 19% on Rotten Tomatoes. The only one of Disney Star Wars franchises that has managed to maintain audience appeal across several seasons is Andor, which stars Mexican actor Why does that have to do with anything? Mexican actor? Why would you have to say that? Just say actor. Mexican actor Diego Luna as the eponymous spy working for the heroic rebels as they take on the might of the Empire, led by legendary villain Darth Vader. I think... All right, I'm not going to go there. Set 5 years before the tremendously successful original Star Wars trilogy, Andor feels equally grounded that thanks to its heavy use of practical effects and physical sets and on-set, on-location shooting, rather than the digital backdrops which are common to other Star Wars productions, as this report explained. It was a winner with audiences, earning an 88% Rotten Tomatoes rating for its first season, which debuted in 2022. It took 3 years for its successor to drop as filming of season 2 was heavily delayed by the writers and actors strike in 2023. It was worth the wait, as season 2 opened in April this year to an audience score of 89%. It didn't come cheap. The cost of making streaming shows is usually a closely guarded secret, as studios combine all of them in their expenses and don't itemize how much they spent on each one. Shows made in the UK are exceptions, and Andor was one of them. Studio filming in the UK got a cash reimbursement of up to 25.5% of the money they spent in the country. Until last year, it came in the form of a tax credit, but the cash is now counted as revenue. The key condition of receiving it is that at least 10% of the core costs of the production have to be incurred in the UK. And in order to demonstrate this to the authorities, studios set up separate companies to produce each show that make it there. They shine a spotlight on the spending because the companies are obliged to file legally binding financial statements which reveal everything from the production's overall cost and level of reimbursement to the headcount, salaries, and even the Social Security payments to the staff. It takes some detective work to get to the bottom of this. The companies have code names so that they don't raise attention with fans when filing for permits to film on location. Andor was made by Disney's subsidiary E&E Industries, which was originally founded in October 2018 to work on the feature film and iconic Star Wars character Obi-Wan Kenobi. Disney had a rethink following the failure of its movie based on Star Wars stalwart Han Solo, which was released earlier that year. It lost $103.3 million at the box office, as this report revealed, and as a result of this, Obi-Wan Kenobi became a Disney Plus show. Filming was due to begin in summer 2020, but it was not to be. Production was put on hold in mid-2020 January after Disney reportedly became concerned that the storyline was too similar to The Mandalorian, as it involved Kenobi protecting a young Luke Skywalker, famously played by Mark Hamill in the original Star Wars movies. The delay proved to be a blessing in disguise, as the pandemic soon sent the world into lockdown, giving time for the Obi-Wan Kenobi script to be reworked. Boy, did they screw that up. Kira! By May 2021, the crew had gathered in Los Angeles and filming finally began. The filings for E&E Industries revealed that a total of $7.2 million had been spent by October 31st, 2019, not long before pre-production on Obi-Wan Kenobi was halted. It's likely that more was spent on this show in the intervening time, but the bulk of the cost should show on the 2019 filings. E&E Industries wasn't mothballed when Obi-Wan Kenobi was put on hold. Instead, it became the production company for Andor, and both seasons of the show were shot at the historic Pinewood Studios outside London. It was also filmed on location across the UK, with a futuristic metro station in London doubling for the Imperial Security Bureau on the alien planet of Coruscant, it's the capital of the Galactic Empire. While the resort planet Neamos was actually a seaside town in the north of England. In an interview on Comic Book Movie, Andor's special effects supervisor Neil Scanlon revealed that around 6 weeks of pre-production had been done on Andor by the time the UK went into lockdown at the end of March 2020. Filming was delayed repeatedly due to the pandemic, and E&E Industries has handed a $1.6 million grant by the UK government, along with $2 million from an insurance claim. As with all UK companies, E&E Industries releases its filings in stages long after the period they relate to. The process started during pre-production and continues long after the premiere in order to give the production team time to ensure that all the bills are paid. It explains why the company today released its financial statements in November 22nd, 2024, which shows that by then, the total of $705.5 million had been spent on both seasons of the show. The second season debuted precisely 5 months after the date of the financial statements, so the cost is likely to rise in the subsequent set of filings next year. Excluding the $7.2 million for expenses of Obi-Wan Kenobi puts the total spending of that 2 seasons of Andor around $698.3 million, and the financial statement reveals that they were both within the production budget. It doesn't stop there. I also want to note, this is 2 seasons of a series that total that amount. So 2 seasons, and let's just say they're 8 episodes long. I think there was like 10 in the first season. So that's 10 hours for the first season, 8 hours for the second season. That's 18 hours to equate that total. instead of 2 hours of a film to equate that total. So it's not apples to apples comparison here, people. And even if it was, that's a hell of a deal then, because then you're getting so many more hours of entertainment for the same cost as a 2-hour film. And in Andor's case, it's amazing entertainment. I'd say that's money well spent. E&E Industries also received a total reimbursement and tax credit of $142.3 million, which brought Disney's net spending on Andor down to $552.4 million after deducting the insurance payout and the payment of the pandemic grant. One of the biggest single expenses shown in the financial statements was the $85.5 million paid to staff, which is the highest wage billed for any of the shows and movies made by Disney in the UK over the past 15 years. Well, it was 2 seasons, 18 episodes-ish. I mean, you have to pay them for their time. It's not like you just had one 2-hour film to put together in a couple months that you were paying actors for. Staff numbers on Andor peaked in 2023 at a monthly average of 501 people, which doesn't include freelancers, contractors, and temporary workers, as they aren't listed as employees in the books of UK companies, even though they often represent the majority of the crew on a film shoot. Last year, Disney announced that since 2019, it has spent $4.8 billion on production in the UK across 41 shows and 29 feature films, supporting more than 32,000 jobs. It's a good portion of the total. The latest data from British Film Institute shows that in 2019 alone, filmmaking generated a total of 37,685 jobs in London and 7,775 throughout the rest of the UK. The BFI's triennial Screen Business Report added that when the wider impacts of the film content value chain are taken into consideration, 49,845 jobs were created in London in 2019 and 19,085 throughout the rest of the UK. In February, the BFI released the latest annual data, which showed that foreign studios contributed a massive 87% of the $2.6 billion spent on making films in the UK in 2024. And this doesn't just keep people in jobs, but it also drives spending on services such as security, equipment hire, transport, and catering, and lodging. It remains to be seen how long this glow will last. In May, President Trump rocked Hollywood with the announcement that a 100% tariff will be applied to movies entering the U.S. that are produced in foreign lands. It was an attempt to bring filmmaking back to the U.S., and although it has yet to be implemented, it hasn't been forgotten. In late September, Trump wrote on social media that in order to solve this long-term, never-ending problem, I will be imposing a 100% tariff on any and all movies that are made outside the United States. If he doesn't follow through with the threat, he may have to roll out the red carpet by offering Hollywood studios even more lucrative incentives than they get in the UK in order to tempt them back home. I don't think the president should have anything to do with where films are made, but I do appreciate the concept behind his, demand of tariffs for it. And that is, we should have films made here. The United States is an incredibly diverse location. I mean, the terrain range is all of Europe and some of Asia. So there's no real reason why we can't make films here other than the cost. And look, if Canada and UK are going to subsidize the cost of films, then of course people are going to film there. It has nothing to do with them not liking America. It has everything to do with the money. And it's always about the money, Lebowski. Always. So in this particular case, I think this is an unfair portrayal of the series cost in comparison to a film. Because again, it's like 18 hours versus 2 hours. And then it's still, once you remove all the incentives and stuff, not even close to the cost of one of the 2-hour sequel trilogy films that are just hot garbage. And it's still amazing of a series. So it's very rewatchable. You'll say the article claims The Acolyte wasn't successful because of bigotry and then says Mexican actor instead of actor. Yeah, I didn't want to go into the whole racialist perspective, but yeah, that's exactly what they just did. They made it a racial statement rather than just saying straight up, he's a good actor that starred in the film. And he is a good actor. And I love him. I don't care if he's Mexican or Puerto Rican or Australian. He's just a good actor. His background has nothing to do with it. I mean, maybe it has something to do with him as, culturally and stuff, but as far as the character and stuff, no, it has nothing to do with it. So ridiculous. Anyway, let me know what you think. Is it fair to compare the costs of a series, which is infinitely longer runtime than a film, and the production budgets and locations shooting and stuff like that? And would you rather have films filmed in the US, even though they would cost a lot more? Let me know in the comments. Of course, all that supplementary money from the whole film production would then be going into America and not into foreign countries. And look, I'm not one of those patriots who's like, everything has to be American. I think these borders we draw around this planet are pretty ridiculous in most cases. But I do like the idea of incentivizing people to film here so that local communities are benefiting from that production rather than other countries benefiting from it. So in general, I like the idea of it. All right, before we close down this episode, let's take a quick look at the Star Wars news website. Yeah, Chris, especially for a galaxy far, far away, an actor's ethnicity should be even less relevant. Here. So we've already looked at these two top ones. Watch the Young Jedi Knight Season 3 trailer with the younglings. I don't give a damn about any of that. And that's kind of all the news. There's not a lot of news coming out of Star Wars lately. Let's watch the trailer. Who knows? Maybe it'll be good. I don't know anything about this. A glimpse in the new trailer. Let's watch it.
Let's go! Give it all you got!
You younglings are special, and these droids could be very helpful on your final missions. Are you ready?
We've trained with so many great Jedi Masters. I think it's time to show our friends what a Jedi can do. Yay! And that is why we go together.
The Young Jedi return
And there's so much more to see.
for an epic adventure.
No way we'd miss it.
It's time to test what my latest creation can do.
I will defeat the Jedi.
We'll handle this droid.
On December 8th,
Here we go! Look out!
follow your friends one last time.
Beautiful! Together.
We may be in a tough spot, but Jedi never give up, right?
Proud of you, I am.
Time to have some fun.
Looks like you're not the only one who's excited.
And may the Force be with you.
Young Jedi Adventures, streaming December 8th.
May they grow up strong and bright.
I mean, I don't hate it. I'm not really excited, and I'll never watch it probably, but I mean, who cares, I'll have to watch the first season. Thing is Star Wars was always meant for 10 to 13-year-old boys, kids, basically. And so the idea of a Star Wars direct-to-kids thing is, I've always liked that. I used to watch Droids as a kid. I used to watch Ewoks as a kid. Those are two of the original cartoons. And then, of course, the Caravan of Courage and Ewok Adventure films, made-for-TV films that were released. I watched those as a kid and loved them. So Star Wars has had a long history of just catering toward children, of course. That's why it's so successful, is because it was always catered toward children, and it's meant to teach little children how to be better humans. And so, shows like Young Jedi Adventures, I'm here for that. I'll never watch it, but it looked cute. And I've sat through horrible series like Resistance. This couldn't be that much worse than that. So, whatever. Are you guys going to see this with your family? Are you going to sit down and watch it with your kids? Because that's the only way I would ever watch it, is if I had a kid that was of this target market age, which I would imagine is like elementary level. I just don't. I don't have any kids that age anymore. Mine are all grown. So if I did, I would definitely watch it. I watched so much Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Avatar and The Legend of Korra with my kids that I would definitely watch this with my kids if I had them. Your kids have never seen that show. You equate them to eating pure sugar, sweet but no content. Yeah, I could see that. But it's Star Wars, you know? And here's the bottom line. We're all junkies. We're all Star Wars junkies. Like, you give us anything, any good reason to watch it, and we'll watch it. And in this case, the only good reason is lightsabers. Okay, lightsabers, woo! And that's kind of it. All right. Well, that is going to do it for this HoloNet news. That is all the Star Wars news on my desk. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this HoloNet news broadcast. If you enjoy it, be sure to like, comment below with your thoughts, and subscribe so you'll catch the next episode where we'll explore more Star Wars news. You can also support this YouTube channel by becoming a member or a Patreon patron. Links are in the description below. Thank you to creator patron Iron Hardy and developer patron Chris Androu. Thank you for watching. Until next time, my fellow scruffy-looking Nerf Herders, may the Force be with you.